So there's been quite a lot of news recently in the United Kingdom, of course, about Brexit, but probably the second biggest story after that in the last few days has been the fact that Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh, has been involved in a pretty serious road accident. And it's bringing about a lot of sort of debate angles. So what we know is that the Duke was involved in this accident on the A149 near the Sandringham estate in Norfolk a few days ago. And looking at the footage, it certainly doesn't seem like a small thing. We're not talking about a little scratch on the side of the car. The entire vehicle was um, turned over on its side. There was glass everywhere, and apparently a few other vehicles were involved. Well, at least one other vehicle was involved. Um, Two women and a baby girl, and a 75-year-old man came to see the overturned car, and he found the Duke. Well, he found a man whose leg was stuck, and then he realised it was the Duke of Edinburgh. The good news is that it appears no one has been seriously hurt, um, and apparently the Duke has, walked away from the scene himself. Luckily, the two women and the child were not hurt either. However, he was treated for shock. Now, what the palace is saying is that, well, that they're kind of downplaying it. Apparently, the Dukes dismiss it as a minor inconvenience, and his spokespeople have said that he was distracted by sunlight. I think this is going to bring about a lot of debate about older drivers. Now, my own view is, well, the situation in the UK is drivers over the age of 70 have to do have to get renew their license every 3 years and prove that they're capable of driving. Critics say that that is ageist, and there's no evidence that older drivers cause more crashes. I have heard of tragic cases where really elder drivers, like nonagenarians, people in their 90s, pulled the wrong. I don't drive, so I don't know all the terminology, but they made some very basic errors, and children were killed. So that's one argument. But then I think if we were to look at most accidents, I think you'd find probably it isn't a majority that's caused by older drivers. And when we hear about boy racers, so that's the other side of it. Um, I should say the palace has contacted the women to find out if they're okay. But this brings about a lot of analogies. I mean, the first thing that is obvious with this being the royal family is Princess Diana, of course. Um, I mean, if Prince Philip had been killed, you can imagine that it would be weeks and weeks of press coverage. I mean, his death is going to be a big event anyway, but in those circumstances, it would get a lot of headlines. Um, he's dismissing it, but analysts are saying he is lucky to be alive. This is no small thing. I mean, I think something like that would shake up anyone. And when you're 97 years old, I mean, everyone knows he's a pretty robust figure. He's well known for being very outspoken, um, quite stoic figure. Some would say stubborn. I do think after this, if he insists on driving himself, it would be just ridiculous. I think common sense should prevail, and the Queen and his personnel should really put their foot down and say, with the greatest of respect, no, we're getting a police officer, we're getting security personnel. I remember when the Obamas visited a few years ago, they were visibly nervous to see that the driver was a 97-year-old Prince Consort. Um, I don't think he's a bad driver. I mean, there's no evidence that he's what's the word, incapable or incapacitated or anything like that. He doesn't use a walking stick. He's pretty stoic for his age, very stoic for his age, in fact. But there comes a point when you have to think, well, should common sense prevail here? Um, and I think it's in the prince's character to be a bit stubborn, but like I say, I think people should put their foot down. I mean, let's just say the child in the other vehicle had been killed. It would have been a horrible situation. I don't incidentally think the prince should be given special treatment. And it's an interesting thing about this country. Norfolk Police has said that they are going to pursue this case just like any other. And that's very refreshing, actually, because there are monarchies around the world where that wouldn't be the case. So I don't think the royal family should get special treatment. The prince was given a breathalyzer test. There's obviously no sign to indicate that he was being reckless. I'm pleased no one's been seriously hurt, but this particular road apparently is quite dangerous. 5 people have been killed in recent years. So I think common sense should prevail. I think if the Duke refuses to, allow police officers or security people to drive from now on, then that isn't going to go down too well with people, because I don't think that's being um, charismatic. I think that's just being stupid. So yeah, it's definitely a thought-provoking one. Like I say, I don't think age in itself is necessarily something that makes someone a bad driver. I mean, you could get a 75-year-old, 80-year-old who's a very capable driver more so than a 25-year-old, or vice versa. It's down to the individual. But because this road is so dangerous, because of the circumstances, because a child was in the other vehicle, it's just, thank goodness no one was seriously hurt. And this may not, it may be that he's got internal injuries. It may be that something happens that, has comes later on, and that would be tragic. So let me know your thoughts.